They have spotted a plover.
On the horizon to the left of the pole.
How far out is it?
This festival it's about a lot more than just birds.
Did you guys see
There's
it?
two of them together.
It's about community, it's about people, it's about collaboration.
We are a small town. Actually, we're not technically a town, we're a township. We've noticed it's hard to keep the younger generation in town after they graduate. So we were trying to figure out how we could bring light to the town to try to get some businesses. Because eventually when all the kids leave, the town ceases to exist. I grew up calling them plover, but I can't say that there is a definite one way or the other.
The mountain plover.
The mountain plover.
The mountain plover.
Mountain plovers.
Mountain plovers.
I like to say, as the folks are coming into the
Mountain Plover Festival.
The Plover Festival.
Plover Festival.
all the folks coming in are plover lovers.
Oh, we made the mulch ourselves.
Oh yeah, we expect to see one.
And then once the whole weekend has gone by, they're all tired. They're over the plover.
Even though we're in the same area, we just kind of have different lives. We're young, so we don't chase the birds, there's nothing wrong with it. We just have other things to do.
Welcome very much. We're really glad you're here. Hope you enjoy the meal. Tonight supper, tomorrow breakfast, and Saturday night prime rib.
Back in the early 2000s, some biologists came out.
And I said, "What in the world are you doing?" And she said, "The birds, they're everywhere." She says, "There's mountain plovers here." Fish and Wildlife Service has been petitioned to list the mountain plover.
When they petition for an animal to be put on the endangered species list, creates a lot of regulation.
I grew up in a very conservative family. We didn't need government in our lives. I've never done any work with any agencies. All I wanted to be was a good cattleman. So you can do one or two things. Okay, I can put a chain up at the cattle guard and say, "You're not welcome here," and put my head in the sand and hide. Or you can embrace it and figure out, okay, so I've got this bird, what do I do?
He got on board with this research idea, and it has changed the ranch for the better. We've figured out that there were a lot of birders that were interested in looking at the plover. So it was mention of doing a birding festival to allow access to birders into private land.
Nice to meet you, Ken.
We have caps, we have lens cleaners, book farts, keychains, pens, the muds, and cups, bows, and calendars.
So this is my third Plover Festival.
Yes.
It's a great town. It's the best place I've ever lived.
I am encouraged by this year. We had to actually cut registration off because we had more people register than we could actually handle.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Jody and Sally, we're from Denver, Colorado.
I'm Mark Miller. I'm from Beaverton, Oregon, but I used to live in Longmont.
I'm a native Coloradan, and I had never heard of Karval until I read about it in the Denver Post.
I'm from Hugo, which is a little north of here. This is my third time here.
I grew up right down the road here. I was just blown away that there were so many different birds in the area that, I had just passed off for all those years. And I think since that point I have, maybe missed one festival, I don't know. Not very many.
Colorado Bird Conservancy comes down.
this has been an honor and a privilege to be working with the Karval Alliance.
We've got Parks and Wildlife that comes down.
Karval's one of the most intact, well-managed shortgrass prairie systems in all of the United States. And if we didn't have these communities here supporting that stewardship of the land, we wouldn't have the wildlife that I think many of you are drawn to come here and see.
Grasslands are really just an unappreciated gem. It is not topographically interesting. It's known for being flat.
But within that flatness is so much incredible diversity and ecological function. Birds in the grasslands are incredibly threatened. They've declined the most of any guild within North America. So when we talk about 3 billion birds lost, grassland birds are at the top of that list. When you take wildlife into consideration on the grasslands, it's really obvious that agriculture and wildlife can go hand in hand. Lived experience is so crucial, especially in rural areas, and that can be difficult for outsiders to see sometimes, because biologists have a tendency to think that we know everything. Every one of these landowners knows more about their land than you do.
There's a huge win-win here, and that story doesn't really get told enough. 20 years ago, when people talked about the urban-rural divide, I would say that wasn't a thing, and it feels like it's more and more of a thing. And one of the greatest things I think about this festival is it takes you out of your bubble a little bit both ways, right? It's bringing folks in from non-rural areas to really see what life is like here, and vice versa for folks in rural areas to get a sense of what other folks are thinking about and what their concerns are.
Has everybody gotten, do you know, have you been connected with where you're staying?
When we started this, we knew that there was no hotels, so we talked with the people in the town and farmers and ranchers in the area to see if they'd be willing to host people that come in, and then that gives the people that come in a chance to meet the locals, to get you that one-on-one personal connection with us.
Never been here before.
We've been to Colorado a couple times, but never this far out. The nearest hotel, it's Airbnb, is 35 miles away. So when one is starting a tour at 6 o'clock in the morning, it makes for a really early day.
The people that come are always such nice people, so it's always a pleasure. Plover, it's a nice plover. I like it.
I do have a 3-hour-long playlist of songs about birds. I made during the pandemic when we were playing Wingspan every Sunday. Turns out there's a lot of songs about birds.
Yes, there are.
You play multiple birds, like the scaled quail. It's a rather complicated game, but it's a good game for birders.
Dedicated bird watchers.
It works for all of us, I think, the people who come to stay, and for us, widen our horizons a little bit.
How does it change my life? Well, I go from being strong right to a moderate, realizing that compromise is important. Doing this kind of thing is the most important thing that we can do, is having you folks out here on the ground to see what's going on. And at the end of the day, that's how we take care of the species.
In the school, K through 12, it's around, is it 30?
35.
I think it's 38.
35.
Oh, 35.
Yeah.
There's been others in our class earlier on, but they just left and
They come and they go.
There's probably maybe 40 people that live currently in the platted town of Karval.
That's a good question. What is here in town?
Our school district covers a very vast area, probably about 400 families, although currently we only have 33 kids enrolled in school, K through 12.
Post office, school, park, feed store.
How many kids are in the graduating class?
One.
No.
One. I graduated in 1999 and there was 13 in the graduating class. And I was the valedictorian.
Karval's not alone in this. Our rural and agricultural communities are aging, people just moving to the cities for jobs, good paying jobs, because there's fairly little economic opportunity here. When you lose the people, you just lose the community. So Karval has had a small school for years, and they no longer have a gas station. They haven't had a cafe in 20 years.
The politics in Colorado can be kind of tough on this way of life.
Yeah. Nobody really wants to support Karval. It's in the middle of nowhere for a school. We just get forgotten about, and then we come along with it.
Festival. Yep.
Yeah.
Gracie Franny won second place for $2 in the coloring contest.
Last year I wound up on a bus because I was messing around. I didn't have anything else to do. And there was a guy from Britain, like England. So there's people from all over the place. And it's crazy that they wind up in nowhere USA.
Okay, birds. Birds.
One of those things that's kind of a tradition and it gets passed down.
Not a whole lot of people that aren't from here want to come back and take care of big responsibilities like that.
It's one of those things that if you stick around, you'll start caring about it because someone will tell you to eventually, but we're not there yet.
I grew up on a ranch just like a half-mile north of the town itself. I graduated as one of 4. There's kind of a beauty in that because everyone gets to do everything. There's also, the cost that everyone has to do everything in order for there to be a basketball team. When I was in junior high school, the Plover Festival got started. All of a sudden, there were a bunch of wildlife biologists in Karval, around Karval, and all of them were so welcoming and kind and allowed me to trail them, to count burrowing owls or look at box turtles. That caused me to look at the grasslands differently, because all of a sudden, once you know what a bird is, you notice it. Once you know what a flower is, you notice it. That knowledge base about the world we live in is kind of first step in wanting to conserve it. Historically, so many more people would have known what the grasslands were about. They would have cared about Western prairie chickens. They would have cared about mountain plovers. They would have cared about all these species because they saw them. It's sort of a positive feedback loop where you lose one thing and that causes you to lose another thing. So things like the Plover Festival and the Karval Alliance that helps put this on, they sort of encourage that community. They support that community.
All these front range types who, like me, rarely come out here and encounter different people. That was the most amazing thing to me, the way it all clicked together and common interests of preserving the landscape, preserving birds, preserving way of life, preserving family structures. I think that can all work together, and this is such a wonderful example of it. I'm even getting a little teared up because I feel so proud to have seen it.
If you see what's out here, it becomes clear why it's so valuable. Not for monetary reasons, but because of aesthetic reasons. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place, and that people here value that. And spreading that message can really move the needle on conservation.